The vast chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with quiet whispers and subtle clicks of communication. Towering beings of various shapes and colors lined the circular hall, their attention fixed on the small group of humans standing nervously in the center. Ambassador Jack Reed straightened his tie for the fifth time, feeling the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders. "And these are your weapons?" asked Counselor Drav, a tall blue being with 4 arms and eyes that shimmered like liquid mercury. His upper limbs gestured toward the display table where Earth's military representatives had arranged their finest armaments. Admiral Pete Harris nodded firmly. "Yes, Counselor. These represent our most advanced personal and squad-level weapon systems." The display included an array of firearms, a standard military rifle, a heavy machine gun, several handguns, and even a rocket launcher. The humans had spent weeks selecting which weapons to bring, hoping to impress the Council with their craftsmanship and firepower. Instead, a ripple of something like amusement passed through the chamber. "You propel small metal objects using controlled explosions?" asked another council member, her voice a melodic trill that somehow conveyed deep confusion. "Chemical propellants, yes," replied Harris, his back stiffening. "These projectiles can travel at supersonic speeds and deliver significant kinetic energy to targets." The council members exchanged glances. Some used their communication devices to share data, while others simply stared at the human delegation with expressions ranging from pity to amusement. "Most fascinating," said Grand Counselor Xivix, an ancient being whose crystalline body refracted light in hypnotic patterns. "Our youngest spacefaring members abandoned such technology over 8,000 years ago." A holographic display activated behind the council members, showing sleek weapons that seemed to be made of flowing metal and light. They fired beams of energy that could adjust their intensity from a mild stun to complete molecular disintegration. "These are standard peacekeeping tools used throughout council space," explained Xivix. "No moving parts to fail, no ammunition to deplete, powered by miniature fusion cells that last for decades." Reed felt his hopes sinking. When Earth had been invited to petition for membership in the Galactic Council after first contact 3 years ago, they had known there would be a technology gap. But the dismissive looks on alien faces made it clear. The gap was more like an unbridgeable chasm. "Perhaps," offered Colonel Mary Watson from the human delegation, "you'd like a demonstration of our weapons' effectiveness." This suggestion triggered what could only be described as laughter among the council members, though it manifested in various ways, from chittering sounds to pulsing light patterns to subsonic rumbles. "I assure you that won't be necessary," said Counselor Drav, making a gesture that their translators indicated meant something between dismissal and gentle patronizing. "We understand the principles involved. Your species is remarkably persistent to have maintained such antiquated technology into your space age." Reed cleared his throat. "With respect, counselors, our weapons have proven highly effective in our conflicts. They are reliable, adaptable, and devastating against both armored and unarmored targets." "No doubt they serve you well on your homeworld," said Xivix kindly. "But in galactic society, they would be viewed as museum pieces at best, dangerous relics at worst." Admiral Harris's face flushed red with barely contained frustration. "These museum pieces can put a hole through 2 inches of steel from 1,000 yards away." "Steel?" A ripple of genuine amusement passed through the chamber. Few advanced civilizations still use such brittle materials for protection. The meeting continued for another hour, but the tone had been set. Earth's delegation was treated with courteous condescension, their military capabilities dismissed as quaint curiosities from a bygone era. As they were escorted from the chamber, Reed knew their petition for council membership was effectively dead. What none of them realized was how dramatically this assessment would change in the coming months. The Earth delegation sat in uncomfortable silence aboard their ship, orbiting the massive Galactic Council station. The meeting room felt suffocating despite its size. Ambassador Jack Reed stared at the formal rejection letter displayed on his tablet. "This is absurd," Admiral Harris finally said, breaking the tense quiet. They're rejecting our petition primarily because of our weapons technology. Not our governance, not our cultural achievements, but because we use bullets instead of fancy light beams. Colonel Watson shook her head. They called our technology dangerously primitive and a liability to galactic peace, as if we're cavemen with clubs. The official rejection document from the Council glowed on the main screen, its diplomatic language barely hiding the condescension. Asterisk, while the Council acknowledges Earth's remarkable progress for such a young species, we regret to inform you that your petition for membership has been denied at this time. Your military capabilities rely on outdated kinetic principles that the galactic community has long abandoned as inefficient and unpredictable. We recommend a development period of no less than 1 standard century before reapplication. Asterisk. Reed rubbed his temples. 3 years of preparation, diplomacy, and hope. Crushed because humans still used bullets. They don't understand, said Dr. Emma Turner, the weapons specialist who had helped prepare the military presentation. Their entire defense technology evolved around energy weapons. They've forgotten the fundamentals of kinetic combat. Doesn't matter what they've forgotten, Harris replied bitterly. They're the ones with the power to reject us. A soft chime interrupted them as Technical Officer Ben Lopes entered the room. Sorry to interrupt, but there's something you should see. He connected his device to the main display, showing surveillance footage from the Council Weapons Lab, where they had left their samples for analysis. The team watched as several Council scientists examined the human weapons with various scanning devices. Their body language showed clear dismissal, even mockery. One tall, insect-like alien pointed at the rifling inside a barrel and made a gesture that caused the others to emit light patterns, their version of laughter. They're treating our guns like children's toys, Watson observed, her voice tight with anger. Wait for it, Lopes said, fast-forwarding the footage. Now the aliens were in a different room, a testing chamber. They had mounted one of the human rifles in a firing mechanism. A Council weapons master activated it remotely, firing at what appeared to be one of their standard energy shields, the kind that stopped their beam weapons effectively. The bullet passed straight through the shield and embedded itself in the wall behind. The Council members froze, their postures showing unmistakable shock. They repeated the test with different shields and different human weapons. Each time, the result was the same. Their defensive technology was completely ineffective against basic human bullets. They're panicking, Lopes said with a hint of satisfaction. They've just realized their standard defenses are useless against our primitive weapons. Reed leaned forward. Did they include this in their assessment? No, Lopes replied. This happened after they drafted the rejection, and according to my source, they classified these findings at the highest level. Admiral Harris' expression shifted from dejection to calculated interest. So their entire defense doctrine has a massive vulnerability to technology they consider obsolete, and they're keeping it secret rather than acknowledging it. Exactly, Lopes confirmed. They're scrambling to update their shield technology, but they've been using energy-based weapons exclusively for thousands of years. They don't have ready solutions for kinetic weapons. Reed stood up, a new determination in his eyes. We need to report this to Earth Central immediately. This changes everything. What good does it do us? Watson asked. We're still rejected. For now, Reed replied. But knowledge is power. They've underestimated us, and that gives us leverage. We now know something they don't want us to know. As the team began formulating their next steps, an emergency signal blared through the ship's communication system. A Council diplomatic vessel was under attack in a nearby system. Interesting timing, Harris murmured, exchanging meaningful glances with Reed. Indeed, the ambassador replied. Perhaps an opportunity to demonstrate the practical value of our primitive technology has just presented itself. Captain Mark Stone stood on the bridge of the UES Thunder, Earth's newest stealth vessel, as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The ship's engines hummed quietly as they approached the coordinates where the distress signal originated. Scan complete, Captain, Lieutenant Diane Ford reported from her station. "We have visual confirmation of the Council vessel. It appears to be dead in space." On the main view screen, a sleek silver ship drifted against the backdrop of stars. Its elegant design, reminiscent of a teardrop, contrasted sharply with the boxy human vessel. Even more concerning was the second ship attached to its hull, a dark, angular craft covered in jagged protrusions. "Ravagers," growled Commander Bill Jackson, the Thunder's tactical officer, just as the distress call indicated. Stone nodded grimly. The Ravagers were infamous throughout this sector, a violent species that rejected Galactic Council authority and preyed on ships traveling through less protected regions. They were one of the few genuine threats the Council military regularly faced. "Life signs?" Stone asked. "Faint readings from the Council ship. Approximately 12 survivors, huddled in what appears to be a secure room," Ford replied. "I'm also detecting 23 Ravager biosignatures moving through the vessel." Stone turned to Jackson. "Prep the rescue team. Full tactical gear." Within minutes, 12 human soldiers gathered in the launch bay. Unlike the sleek, lightweight armor of Council peacekeepers, their gear was bulky and practical: composite plate carriers, ballistic helmets, and their primitive firearms loaded with specialized ammunition. Sergeant Alex Rivera checked his assault rifle one last time before addressing his team. "Remember the plan. We board quietly, locate the survivors, and extract them before the Ravagers realize what's happening." The boarding craft detached from the Thunder and silently approached the damaged Council ship. Using cutting tools designed to bypass alien security systems, they created their own entrance through a maintenance hatch. "Atmosphere is breathable," whispered Corporal Jess Taylor, the team's tech specialist. "Gravity systems still operational." The human soldiers moved through the elegant corridors of the Council vessel with practiced precision. The ship's interior was a stark contrast to human military vessels: curved surfaces, ambient lighting, and materials that seemed to shift colors as they passed. "Contact ahead," Rivera warned through the team comm. 3 Ravagers approaching the intersection. For the first time, the humans got a clear look at their adversaries. The Ravagers stood nearly 7 feet tall, with gray leathery skin and 4 arms. They wore patchwork armor scavenged from various species and carried energy weapons that hummed with unstable power. "Hold position," Rivera ordered. The team pressed against the walls as the Ravagers passed by, conversing in guttural clicks and hisses. Once they were gone, Rivera signaled for the team to continue. Following life sign readings, they soon reached a sealed door near the ship's command center. Taylor worked quickly to bypass the lock system. "Council members, this is Sergeant Rivera of Earth Defense Forces," he announced through the door's communication system. "We're here in response to your distress call." After a moment of silence, a surprised voice responded. "Humans. The Council sent humans." "The Council didn't send us," Rivera replied. "Earth sent us. Now please stand back from the door." When the door slid open, they found 4 Council members: 2 tall crystalline Viridians, a serpentine Noxian, and a bulbous Galen. All looked shocked to see humans as their rescuers. "Ambassador Talas," gasped one of the Viridians, recognizing the insignia on Rivera's uniform. "I was at your weapons demonstration. Why would Earth send help after we rejected your petition?" Questions later, Rivera said, "We need to move now." As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the ship. The Ravagers had detected the rescue team's presence. "They found us," Taylor announced, checking her tactical display. "At least 15 hostiles converging on our position." The Council members looked terrified. "Our weapons couldn't penetrate their shields," the Noxian explained frantically. "Their defensive technology is too advanced." Rivera chambered a round in his rifle and smiled grimly. "Let's see how their shields handle some good old-fashioned lead." As the first Ravagers rounded the corner, weapons charging with deadly energy, the humans took aim. It was time to show the galaxy exactly why primitive sometimes meant effective. The first Ravager rounded the corner, its energy weapon glowing with deadly blue light. Behind it, more appeared, their 4 arms each gripping different weapons or tools. Their gray skin looked tough as leather, enhanced by patchwork armor stolen from a dozen different species. "Get back," Sergeant Rivera ordered the council members, who pressed themselves against the wall. Ambassador Talus, the crystalline Viridian, trembled visibly. Their shields absorb energy weapons completely. We couldn't even slow them down. Rivera grinned. "Good thing we don't use energy weapons." The lead Ravager fired its weapon, sending a bolt of energy toward the humans. Corporal Taylor ducked as it struck the wall behind her, leaving a smoking hole in the metal. "Fire," Rivera ordered. The narrow corridor erupted with the sound of gunfire, a noise the council ship had never experienced before. The sharp cracks echoed off the sleek walls as bullets tore through the air. The lead Ravager's personal shield flickered with blue light as the first bullets struck it, but instead of stopping them, the shield offered no resistance. 3 rounds punched through its chest, dropping the alien to the floor. The rest of the squad's fire found similar targets, cutting down 4 more Ravagers in seconds. The surviving Ravagers hesitated, clearly shocked. One shouted commands in their clicking language, and they activated additional shield layers, holding up arm-mounted projectors. "They're adapting," Taylor called out. "Secondary shields coming online." "Switch to armor-piercing," Rivera ordered. The team quickly changed magazines, loading specialized rounds designed to penetrate hardened targets. When the Ravagers advanced again, these new bullets tore through both their shields and armor with equal efficiency. The council members watched in stunned silence as the human soldiers methodically eliminated the Ravager boarding party. The weapons that the council had mocked as primitive were cutting through advanced alien defenses like they weren't even there. "I don't understand," whispered the Noxian diplomat. "Their shields stop everything we have." "That's the problem," Rivera explained between bursts of fire. "Your civilizations have used energy weapons so long that your shields are only designed to disperse energy. Physical projectiles. They don't even register them as weapons." As the last Ravager fell, an eerie silence settled over the corridor. Ambassador Talus stepped forward carefully, staring at the fallen aliens. "You killed them all," Talus said, voice filled with wonder. "Our security team couldn't even wound one." Rivera reloaded his weapon. "That was just the first wave. We need to move quickly to our extraction point. More will be coming." As if confirming his words, the ship's sensors detected movement from multiple directions. The remaining Ravagers were converging on their position. "Take the center. Protect the diplomats," Rivera ordered his team. They formed a protective circle around the council members and began moving toward the extraction point. They encountered 2 more groups of Ravagers on their way to the maintenance hatch where their boarding craft waited. Each time, the result was the same. The aliens' advanced shields proved completely useless against bullets, while their confusion at facing an unexpected weapon gave the humans a crucial advantage. As they reached the extraction point, Taylor worked quickly to secure the area while the rest of the team covered her. "I've never seen such efficient combat," Ambassador Talus said, watching the humans work with practiced precision. "Your weapons are so simple, yet so effective." "Sometimes the old ways work best," Rivera replied, helping the Viridian into the boarding craft. The bulbous Galen diplomat, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. "The Council made a grave error in dismissing your technology. This is humbling." As the boarding craft detached from the Council vessel, they could see the Thunder engaging the Ravager ship with conventional missiles. Like their smaller counterparts, the Ravager vessel's energy shields did nothing to stop physical projectiles. Within minutes, the pirate ship was crippled and drifting. Commander Jackson's voice came through the comms. "Extraction team, we have you covered, bringing you home." Ambassador Talus looked at Sergeant Rivera with new respect. "When we return to the Council, I will ensure they understand what happened here today. Perhaps it is not Earth that needs to evolve, but the Council that needs to remember." Rivera nodded silently. The demonstration was complete, and it had been more effective than any diplomatic argument could ever be. The Grand Council chamber had never been so quiet. 12 high-ranking council members sat in stunned silence as they watched the combat footage from the rescued diplomatic vessel. The recording showed human soldiers systematically eliminating Ravager forces with weapons the Council had dismissed as primitive just weeks earlier. Grand Councilor Xivix's crystalline form flickered with troubled light patterns. "Play it again," he ordered. For the third time, they watched as bullets tore through Ravager energy shields like they weren't even there. The Council's most advanced defensive technology, refined over millennia, had proven completely useless against simple metal projectiles. "This is disturbing," said Councilor Drav, his forearms twitching nervously. "Our entire defense doctrine is built around energy dispersal shields." Military Advisor Krell, a thick-bodied being with scarred gray skin, stepped forward. "Honored Council, we face a serious vulnerability. For 8,000 years, we have focused exclusively on defending against energy weapons. We have forgotten how to stop physical objects moving at high velocity. Surely our scientists can develop countermeasures quickly," asked a furred counselor from the outer systems. Krell shook his head. "Not as quickly as we would like. Our current shield technology operates on entirely different principles. We would need to design, test, and deploy completely new systems across our entire fleet." Ambassador Tallis, still recovering from the Ravager attack, addressed the Council. "The humans saved my life using technology you mocked. Their weapons work precisely because they are so basic. While we have evolved beyond kinetic weapons, we have also lost the ability to defend against them." The implications hung in the air like a physical weight. The Galactic Council, with all its advanced technology, had a critical weakness that could be exploited by the simplest human firearm. In another room nearby, Ambassador Jack Reed and Admiral Harris waited patiently. They had been summoned to the Council station immediately after the rescue operation, but had been kept waiting for hours while the Council deliberated privately. "They're panicking in there," Harris said, checking his communication device. "Our sources say they classified the weapon's vulnerability at the highest level." Reed nodded. "Good. Better they panic now than during an actual large-scale conflict." The door slid open, and a council aide gestured for them to follow. As they entered the grand chamber, Reed noticed the changed atmosphere immediately. The condescension was gone, replaced by something closer to wary respect. "Ambassador Reed," Civix began, his voice carefully controlled. "The Council wishes to formally thank Earth for the rescue of our diplomatic team. Your soldiers acted with great courage." "They did their duty," Reed replied simply. "Earth responds to distress calls regardless of political standing." "Yes," Civix continued uncomfortably, "about our previous assessment of your military capabilities. We may have been hasty in our judgment." Harris kept his face neutral, though Reed could sense his satisfaction. Military Advisor Krell spoke directly. "Your projectile weapons penetrated Ravager defenses that our most advanced energy weapons couldn't scratch. How many such weapons does Earth possess?" "That's classified information," Harris replied smoothly. "But I can tell you that every human military vessel and soldier is equipped with kinetic weapon systems as standard." The council members exchanged troubled glances. "We would like to propose a military exchange program," Civix said. "Your weapons experts would work with our defense specialists to address certain vulnerabilities in our systems." Reed raised an eyebrow. "Just weeks ago, you rejected our petition for membership, citing our dangerously primitive technology as the primary reason. Now you want access to that same technology." The Council recognizes it may have been short-sighted, Drav admitted reluctantly. "Evolution is not always a straight line. Sometimes older approaches retain value." Reed considered this carefully. "Earth is willing to discuss a military partnership, but on equal terms. We won't be treated as junior partners providing quaint technology to our superiors." "Of course," Civix agreed quickly. "Equal partners." As the meeting continued, Reed realized the power dynamic had shifted dramatically. The Council species had evolved so far beyond kinetic weapons that they'd become vulnerable to them. Humanity's primitive technology represented something the advanced Council races had lost: versatility. "Admiral Harris will coordinate with your military staff," Reed concluded. "I believe we have much to learn from each other." The Council members nodded in agreement, their earlier arrogance replaced by newfound respect for the species they had so recently dismissed. The training room aboard the Galactic Council's military station buzzed with unusual activity. 20 Council species elite soldiers watched with a mixture of confusion and interest as Sergeant Rivera demonstrated the proper stance for firing a standard Earth rifle. "The key is controlling your breathing," Rivera explained, his voice firm but patient. "Inhale, exhale halfway, then squeeze. Don't pull the trigger." The alien soldiers attempted to mimic his stance, their varied anatomies making the task challenging. A 6-limbed Loraxian held the rifle awkwardly in his middle arms, while a gelatinous Melberry had to form solid appendages just to grip the weapon. "This feels primitive," muttered a tall Viridian officer, his crystalline form glinting under the lights. "Primitive kept you alive against the Ravagers," Rivera reminded him with a slight smile. "Now try again." On the observation deck above, Ambassador Reed watched the training session alongside Admiral Harris and Grand Counselor Civics. "Your soldiers are adapting quickly to our methods," Reed commented. Civics's crystalline body pulsed with light patterns that indicated agreement. "Necessity is a powerful motivator. The Ravager incident exposed a critical vulnerability in our defenses. We would be fools to ignore it." "The partnership agreement is working well," Harris noted. "Your technology combined with our tactical approaches, it's a powerful combination." The agreement, formally titled the Earth Council Military Cooperation Treaty, had been signed just 2 weeks after the rescue mission. Under its terms, human military advisors would train Council forces in kinetic combat while gaining access to advanced Council technology. Both sides would work together to develop new defensive systems that could counter all forms of attack. "There is still resistance among some Council members," Civics admitted. "Many find it difficult to accept that we must learn warfare from such a young species. Pride can be deadly in combat," Harris replied simply. Below them, the alien soldiers were now firing at targets, the sharp cracks of gunfire echoing through the chamber. Some were struggling with the recoil, others with the concept of ballistic trajectories. Yet a few showed natural talent, their shots clustering near the center of their targets. "Your Council rejected Earth for membership because you believed our technology was obsolete," Reed said carefully. "Now you seek to adopt that same technology. The irony isn't lost on us." Civics turned his faceted head toward Reed. "A painful but necessary lesson in humility. The Council has existed for 50,000 years. In that time, we developed a certain arrogance. We believed our evolutionary path was the only correct one." "Evolution isn't always forward," Harris noted. "Sometimes it's sideways, or even circular." On another deck of the station, Technical Officer Ben Lopes worked alongside Council engineers, integrating human ballistic weapons systems with their energy-based ship defenses. The hybrid technology they were developing would revolutionize space combat. "The density projector needs to be calibrated to detect objects as small as 2 millimeters, Lopes explained to his alien counterparts. "Your current sensors are only programmed to identify energy signatures, not physical masses." The chief Council engineer, a multi-eyed being named Vex, nodded thoughtfully. "We abandoned such detection systems millennia ago when energy weapons became standard. It seems we must rediscover old knowledge." "That's often how progress works," Lopes replied. 2 steps forward, 1 step back." Back in the Council's diplomatic wing, Colonel Watson met with representatives from 12 different species to discuss the formation of the first Joint Human Council military unit. The proposed force would combine the best qualities of each species: human adaptability, and kinetic combat expertise with the Council race's advanced technology and centuries of experience. The unit will be called the Integrated Defense Force, Watson explained, highlighting the proposal on her tablet. A rapid response team capable of countering threats that exploit either kinetic or energy vulnerabilities. Who will command this force? Asked the serpentine Noxian diplomat. Joint Command, Watson replied firmly. One human, one council officer, with equal authority. The proposal caused murmurs among the council representatives. Such equal standing for humans would have been unthinkable just months ago. Earth has proven its value, Watson continued. We don't seek to dominate the council, but we won't accept being treated as junior partners either. After hours of negotiation, the representatives reached an agreement. The Integrated Defense Force would become reality, with Earth receiving unprecedented access to Council technology in exchange for their combat expertise. As the meeting concluded, Watson caught sight of Ambassador Reed waiting outside. They agreed, she told him with satisfaction. Equal partnership. Reed nodded, allowing himself a small smile. From rejection to alliance in just 3 months. Not bad for a species with primitive technology. 1 year to the day after Earth's initial rejection, Ambassador Jack Reed stood once again in the center of the Grand Council chamber. This time, however, he wasn't a petitioner. He was an honored guest at Earth's formal induction ceremony. The chamber looked vastly different from his first visit. Along the walls hung the flags of all council member species, with Earth's blue and white banner now prominently displayed among them. More striking was the ceremonial display case near the council leader's podium. Inside it rested a standard-issue human rifle, mounted as a symbol of the new era in galactic defense. Representatives of Earth, Grand Councilor Civics began, his crystalline form glowing with formal colors. 1 year ago, we made a grave error in judgment. We evaluated your civilization through our narrow lens of technological progress and found you wanting. Today, we acknowledge that diversity of approach is strength, not weakness. Admiral Harris, standing beside Reed, maintained his professional composure, but a hint of satisfaction showed in his eyes. Colonel Watson and Sergeant Rivera flanked them, both now wearing the new Joint Earth Council military uniforms. The Council hereby officially recognizes Earth as a full member world, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. Civics continued. Your unique perspective has already strengthened our collective security immeasurably. Around the chamber, the various council species signaled their approval in their own ways. Light patterns, scent releases, subsonic rumbles, and more traditional applause. In recognition of Earth's contributions, Civics added, the Council has approved the establishment of the Galactic Military Academy on your world, where species from across our Union will learn combined energy and kinetic combat techniques. This announcement drew surprised murmurs. No new member world had ever hosted such an important institution. Reed stepped forward to address the assembly. On behalf of Earth, we accept this honor and responsibility. Our journey to the stars taught us that we have much to learn, but this past year has shown that we also have much to teach. After the ceremony, a reception allowed for more informal interactions. Reed found himself approached by Ambassador Tallis, the Viridian diplomat whose life the human soldiers had saved. I never properly thanked you, Tallis said, crystal form shimmering with emotional light patterns. Not just for the rescue, but for what your people have taught us. And what is that? Reed asked. That progress isn't always abandoning the old for the new. Sometimes it's remembering what others have been privileged enough to forget. Across the room, Rivera was demonstrating the manual operation of a simple handgun mechanism to a group of fascinated alien military officers. No power source needed, he explained, field stripping the weapon. It will fire under any conditions, underwater, in vacuum, during electromagnetic disruption. Simplicity has its advantages. The alien officers nodded thoughtfully. In the past year, this lesson had been proven repeatedly as the Integrated Defense Force combined human ballistic weapons with Council energy technology to create defense systems that had no vulnerabilities to either approach. Admiral Harris joined a group of Council military leaders discussing the latest reports from the borders. The Ravagers, once a persistent threat, had withdrawn from Council space entirely after several encounters with human-equipped vessels. "They can't comprehend why their shields suddenly stopped working," a Noxian commander explained with satisfaction. "Their entire strategy depended on our inability to penetrate their defenses." Outside the station's windows, Earth ships patrolled alongside Council vessels, their distinctive designs reflecting their different evolutionary paths. The human ships were more compact, more heavily armored, built around kinetic weapon systems and physical defense layers. Council ships remained elegant and energy-focused, but now carried human-designed weapon systems as well. As the reception continued, Reed found a moment alone with Civics near the ceremonial rifle display. "A simple piece of technology," Civics observed, "that changed the balance of power in our galaxy." Reed shook his head. Not the technology itself, but what it represents. Different paths of development, different solutions to the same problems. "A valuable lesson," Civics agreed. "We had forgotten that evolution branches rather than climbs. Your species reminded us that there is wisdom in diversity." As Reed looked around the chamber at humans and aliens working together, sharing stories and ideas, he realized they had achieved something far more valuable than mere Council membership. Earth had earned genuine respect by proving that sometimes the oldest solutions remained effective against the newest problems. The ceremonial rifle in its display case stood as a reminder to all galactic species that progress wasn't always about moving forward. Sometimes it was about remembering where you came from.